Oh, I didn't see you there. I was just reading The Importance of Being Earnest.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere, friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. A reading rainbow. A reading
boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Reading Rainbow. Today, we will be discussing my favorite book, The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. There are many prevalent themes in The Importance of Being Earnest, one of which is marriage. Let's take a look at this exchange between Algernon and Jack.
I'm in love with Gwendolyn. I've come up to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you had come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic are you?
The conversation between Jack and Algernon shows the two perspectives of marriage in the Victorian era. On one hand, Jack has already met the love of his life, Gwendolyn, and therefore he thinks of marriage as a romantic pursuit, whereas Algernon, who has not met anyone that he's in love with yet, still thinks of marriage as a social obligation or a business arrangement. Did you know that Oscar Wilde was born with 3 middle names? His full name is Oscar Fingal O'Flaherty Wills Wilde, and he was born in Dublin, Ireland in 1854. Now let's take a look at Gwendolyn's view on marriage as she speaks to Jack.
I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on.
As you can see, Gwendolyn shares Algernon's view on marriage. She believes that marriage proposals should be organized and planned, which was a common belief in the Victorian era. Now let's take a look at Lady Bracknell's view on marriage as she talks to Gwendolyn.
Pardon me, but you are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come on a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant, as the case may be. It is hardly a matter that she should be allowed to arrange for herself.
As you can see, Lady Bracknell shares a very traditional, fundamentalist view on marriage, where she believes that though marriage should be a surprise and spontaneous, it shouldn't be the choice of the person involved, but rather the choice of their parents and their elders. Did you know that Oscar Wilde loved languages? He was fluent in French and German, and also had knowledge of Italian and ancient Greek. Now let's look at this conversation between Gwendolyn and Cecily.
May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you, detestable girl, but I require tea.
Sugar?
No thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn is a member of the upper class, and therefore is very conscious of her reputation and her appearance. Cecily sees this and takes advantage of this to insult her, just one example of satire and comedy throughout the play.
Oh my gosh! How interesting! What a strange fact. Cool.
Oscar Wilde was married to a woman named Constance Lloyd and even had children with her when he was in fact homosexual. He believed that marriage was a social obligation that he needed to fulfill in order to be accepted as he was a prominent member of society. Did you know that Oscar Wilde was sent to prison for indecency after his relationship with Lord Alfred Douglas was exposed?
Hello, welcome to Crash Course, and this is Skylar Riles. Today we'll be talking about the very important issue of hypocrisy and the importance of being earnest. Oh, Lady Bracknell, I didn't see you there. Lady Bracknell is a very hypocritical character in herself because as the matriarch of the family, she feels it is her decision to decide who gets married and why they get married. In the book, she says that she disapproves of marrying for money, when she herself married Lord Bracknell because he had much money. Later in the book, she disapproves of Algernon and Cecily's marriage until she finds out that Cecily has a lot of money. That's not very nice. Oscar Wilde uses Lady Bracknell's character to expose the hypocrisy in the moral standards of the Victorian era. Dr. Chasuble here is pretty hypocritical too. At the beginning of the book, Dr. Chasuble tells Miss Prism that the church is completely against him getting married, but at the end of the book, he is well on his way to getting married to her. No, Dr. Chasuble. Oh look, there's a question in the class. Yes, Skylar? Your question? Yes, Skylar. What about Jack and Algernon? They seem like main characters. Do they show traits of being hypocritical as well? Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, Skylar. Oh look, here they are. Jack and Algernon both pretend to be Earnest at one point or another in the play. Earnest is the pretend little brother of Jack, and Jack uses Earnest to get to the city, and Algernon uses Earnest to win the favor of Cecily. Jack and Algernon both disapprove of each other using Earnest as a guise, and this is hypocritical.
Oh, hi! This is Pranesh, and this will be Poetry with Pranesh.
Hello, boys and girls. Today we'll be reading We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream, otherwise we wear the mask.
The consequences of hiding one's true identity is a theme that spans both the poem and the play. Jack and Algernon both pretend to be named Earnest to Gwendolyn and Cicely, the women they love, which turns out to have disastrous consequences. In The Importance of Being Earnest and in We Wear the Mask, they're both similar in that they have an omniscient force judging their actions. In We Wear the Mask, it is Christ. However, in The Importance of Being Earnest, it is conscience and morality. that's all I have for a segment of Poetry with Pranesh. Catch me again on another episode of Reading Rainbow.
Does that look good on me?
Yeah.
The next theme we're going to explore in the importance of being earnest is deception. Let's take a look at this dialogue between Algernon and Jack.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present from someone of the name of Cicely, and you said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cicely happens to be my aunt.
But why does she call herself Little Cicely if she is your aunt and lives at Tunbridge Wells? From Little Cicely with her fondest love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. That is a matter that surely an aunt may be allowed to decide for herself. You think every aunt can be exactly like your aunt? That is absurd. For heaven's sake, give me back my cigarette case.
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cicely with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. There is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but why an aunt, no matter what her size may be, should call her own nephew her uncle? I can't quite make out. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all. It is Earnest.
It isn't Ernest. It's Jack.
You have invented a very useful younger brother called Earnest, in order that you may be able to come up to town as often as you like. I have invented an invaluable permanent invalid called Bunbury, in order that I may be able to go down into the country whenever I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you at Willis's tonight, for I have been really engaged to Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
All this time, Jack has been leading a double life, pretending to have a brother named Earnest. He does this so that he can hide his life in the country with his goddaughter Cecily, but also keep up his upper society life in the city. When Algernon finds a cigarette case with Cecily's note in it, all of Jack's lies are unraveled, and he is forced to reveal the truth about himself. Algernon also gets through life with deception. He has made up a fake sick relative named Bunbury so that he can get out of engagements that he doesn't want to attend. Both of these men don't see any consequences to their behavior because they believe that they are not hurting anyone by telling these lies and instead just use them for their own personal gain.
Did you know that Oscar Wilde is more commonly thought of as an author than a playwright, even though he only published one real novel, The Portrait of Dorian Gray, published in 1891? Now let's hear what Jack has to say about his double life.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it is very painful for me to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life that I've ever been reduced to such a painful position, and I'm really quite inexperienced in doing anything of this kind. However, I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother Ernest. I have no brother at all.
Jack has never told the truth in his life and has been living a double life for as long as he can remember, so he's very inexperienced in telling the truth, as he tells Gwendolyn and Cecily. He is apologetic, but in the end, there are no real consequences to his actions, so we wonder, did he really learn from them? Now let's look at Algernon's view on Lane's view of marriage.
Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax. Really, if the lower orders don't set us a good example, what on earth is the use of them? They seem, as a class, to have absolutely no sense of moral responsibility.
Social classes were very prominent in the Victorian era, and Algernon's view on Lane's social class seems a bit backwards, since he's saying that they need to be the ones to set the moral tone for the rest of them, when really, people would think that as a person of lower standing, Lane would be looking up to Algernon and people of upper society.
Now let's take a look at the exchange between Dr. Chasuble and Miss Prism.
You are too much alone, dear Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. A misanthrope I can understand. A womanthrope, never.
Believe me, I do not deserve so neologistic a phrase. The precept as well as the practice of the primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
That is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. And you do not seem to realize, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
As you can see, Miss Prism was flirting with Dr. Chasuble because he was an unmarried man in his 30s. Being single and middle-aged was not something commonly seen in the Victorian era, where people were encouraged to get married by their late teens or their early 20s. Talking about single, middle-aged people in the Victorian era was a little bit taboo, which addresses the literary movement that Oscar Wilde was a part of called aestheticism. Now let's hear what Lady Bracknell has to say.
I'm sure the program will be delightful. After a few expurgations, French songs I cannot possibly allow people always seem to think that they are improper and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds thoroughly respectable language, and indeed I believe is so.
After the French Revolution, the English aristocracy was very afraid that the lower class would rebel against them. So Lady Bracknell doesn't allow any influences of French culture in her party programs, which is why she does not listen to French music and prefers German instead.
Touch your nose. Shake your right arm. Touch your knees. Back up. Walk forwards. Shake your left arm.
This isn't me. This isn't what I want to do. I hate listening to you all the time. This is my life. I'll do what I want. You should do the same. Come on, you're your own person. Oh my gosh, we are so cool.
I know.
Everybody loves us because we like to do cool things.
And we're cool.
Oh yes. Well, because we just know all the cool slang and we just dress the best and we go to the coolest places.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Fine.
What do you guys like to do?
We like to shop and ice skate.
I like all those things too. Wow.
Oh my gosh, really? You can totally be a part of our group now. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go shopping. Oh my gosh, girl, did you see that pink blouse? It was so adorable.
Oh my gosh, it
I
was
know.
so cute.
But I saw Tiffany wearing that green one when we went ice skating, and I was like, ew.
Really?
I don't even know what to do with that. Like, she just, I don't know. It's not alright, and I really like it, and I don't want the skating ring to be messed up for me.
I'm sorry guys. You guys, I'm not really fit out. I'm not really cut out for this.
Why?
I just have different interests.
Like what?
You know, I'm just gonna do my own thing. Thank you for the class.
Skylar, get off your phone. We have a group project to be doing. We still have to do that essay. We still have to write up all that stuff about that painting, and we have to do so much stuff. Really?
Because I worked on 3 pages of that essay last night. What did you do?
I was working a little bit on the stuff that I was playing outside with my neighbors.
See, it's just not fair.
I know.
Why do you want me to do work, but then you won't do any work?
You're right. I was just being hypocritical like Algernon and Jack. You're right.
Algernon and who?
Algernon and Jack are characters in The Importance of Being Earnest, both who are extremely hypocritical at points, which contributes to the satire of the play. In The Importance of Being Earnest, a major plot point is that both Algernon and Jack both pretend to be someone else, a man named Earnest.
But in the play, Jack looks down upon Algernon for a Bunbury, even though he himself has a double life as Earnest.
Both men lie and lead double lives not only to the women that they love, but to each other, and yet look down on each other.
How hypocritical! The book ridicules both Algernon and Jack for leading double lives, and yet Oscar Wilde himself hides his true identity.
Yeah, I
think it's fine to, not all the time, but sometimes not be yourself in the case of like trying to help someone else. But generally it's all about like, if you're lying for someone else for no specific reason, then that's not good. But if you are trying to protect someone, it's fine.
No, I don't think one should lie. There should not be any need to lie. If you're honest and if people trust you, then there should not be any need to lie. It should be open. You should be transparent in your communication and in your intention to help anyone. It's not question of hurting, but it's not even helping. So it's better to be honest and not lie. I mean, it's a different issue if you're trying to hide a person from his sickness, that you don't want to tell about sickness, or but ultimately there's a way to say rather than lying completely.
Absolutely! I mean, let's take for an example, there's a family who is so poor that their children are starving. And the mother decides that to protect her children's lives, she goes to the grocery store knowing she has not 1 cent to her name. You watch this poor mother steal as many groceries as her arms can hold, and as she flees the store, they see that you see her. They actually know that you know who she is. When they come up to you and ask you, what is that lady's name? We believe you're friends with her. Are you going to turn her in? Are you going to be the sentence of her children's death? Or are you going to say, you know what? You're mistaken. I have no idea who that woman is. So you go ahead and ask me if it's okay to lie to protect somebody. And every single time the answer will be the same. Yes!
So I believe it is okay to lie in situations where you're not hurting anyone. Little lies don't matter. Just like if you're supposed to be somewhere by 7:30 and you say you got there by 7:30 but you really got there at like 7:35. I mean, that's no biggie, but if it's something major, then it could be an issue, and you shouldn't lie, like make little lies every so often, just because they could build into a bigger lie, and then you feel like you never really told the truth to that person, and then your relationship is based off lies, if you know what I mean.
I believe that marriage is more of a social obligation, kind of like a social partnership. When you marry somebody, in essence, you're agreeing to be that person's best friend, their +1, their confidant, their confidence even in public. So being a social agreement, you should always have the other one's best interest in mind. Obviously, marriage goes so much deeper than that. However, when you say I do, you're making an agreement to a social contract.
Is marriage more of a social obligation or a romantic gesture?
A romantic gesture, because you shouldn't get married to someone just because you want money or any other obligation. You should get married to someone because you love them, because you have a feeling.
I think it can be taken as either. Oftentimes I think that people are pressured into committing to marriage because of the social obligation, and I don't necessarily think that it's always a romantic gesture when it happens.
I think it is mostly, it can be romantic for people who are in love and they think that this might give them the ultimate happiness. And but according to me, marriage is something which is more like a friendship and not a social obligation, and it should be done to help each other to help each other to progress and not come under any social obligation.
Is it okay to be a hypocrite? Let me tell you what I think. I think it is an abomination to drink alcohol. I think it should be banned. Let's go back to the days of prohibition. I mean, come on, people. What are we, just barbarians? We have to get our drink on to, you know, have a good relationship, to be able to dance? I think not. Now me, I only drink when I've had a hard day. Oh, excuse me for a second. This has been a very hard day. I have 5 kids. You heard me right, 5 children. You know what? Alcohol should be outlawed. Well, except maybe for me, because my life is much harder than anybody else's. So I'm gonna sign the petition to get all alcohol banned again. So put your glasses away, put your bottles away, and I'm just gonna take a break from it. You can cut now.
I don't think it's ever okay to be hypocritical unless you've like learned from an experience and trying to make someone else not redo that bad experience, and you're trying to make them learn from it. But if it's for something negative, then no, it's not okay.
Is there evidence of social class discrepancies in today's society? Absolutely. It goes more than just money or class. It could also be just how you look. In many cases, people will apply for jobs, or they're in the line at the grocery store, and somebody will judge them just by the way they look. They could be of the same race, but if this person has a slightly different look to them, that alone could be enough to dissuade somebody from befriending them or giving them the job that they want. For example, oftentimes people will apply for a job. The interview is intended to not only determine if you're telling the truth, but also what you look like. Do you meet the company brand? Oftentimes, if the person doesn't, has nothing to do with their education or intelligence, they won't get the job.
I think there are classes upper, middle, and lower based on the income of each family. So it depends. I mean, when you have lower income, we go to Walmart and we think, to get sometimes just things from garage sale. But people who have money, they would like to always buy things, branded stuff. So, and I mean, they're also trying to differentiate themselves from lower class and upper class. So when they wear branded stuff, they feel like they're more towards higher end of class. So I do see the class difference in the society.
Yeah, there is evidence of social class division in our society today. You just kind of see like the rich people are in their own kind of thing, then like the middle class, I guess, and then like it's like poor people's like ghettos and just like neighborhoods in like downtown or something like that. It just kind of happens that like people associate with their own kind of people. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like everyone is like racist or like bigoted or anything, but it just kind of happens that people go with their own type, and you see it every day, like in school or in businesses.
No, I mean, that's just not acceptable, because you're not leading, you're leading someone else's life, and you're not happy, never happy, always under pressure. So if you want to live in a free spirit, it's always good to be your own self and just enjoy life and enjoy whatever is coming, rather than thinking to copy someone. It's just so much fun to be just original.
As you can see, people have different views on marriage, being your true self, hypocrisy, social classes, and morality. This is what Oscar Wilde wanted when he wrote the play. He wanted to spark a conversation, as did many works written in the literary movement of aestheticism.
That was such a good book. I mean, Oscar Wilde is just an amazing author for incorporating all those great themes. What do you think?
I think that you are correct. What do you think?